Welcome to another episode of Start to Finish, fueling discipline, focus, and the right mindset. So it's been a while, but I'm always around the corner. Today, we just want to talk about identity. Who am I? I don't know if you've ever asked yourself that question. Who are you? What is your identity? What defines you? What makes you you? I think it's a question we often don't ask. That's including myself. I don't ask that question, who am I? But I a few weeks ago, I found myself asking myself, who am I? What defines me? What is at the core of this guy called Kudakwashi? And that is a question we all have to answer. I know sometimes when you ask, who are you? You start by saying your name, right? Then you might say, I'm a father, I'm a podcaster, I'm a marketer. But at the core of you, beyond these roles that define you, that makes your identity, I'm a black man, I'm a Zimbabwean. Who are you? What drives you? What moves you forward? What makes you tick? Because those values that are infinite, I'm talking about infinity, something that is going to be you 20 years from now, 30 years from now. You are still going to be defined as you. Your roles may change. Today you are a superstar athlete. 10, 15 years from now, you are a totally different person. That celebrity status has disappeared. But there's something that is at the core of your being that defines you. That when you look at yourself in the mirror, identity is you in your reflection. You can pause this audio right now. Go and look at yourself in the mirror. Who do you see? Who are you? Who do you want to be known for years from now? So for me, I've defined myself as I'm loving, caring, hardworking, considerate, respectful, honesty, forgiving. I'm a believer of Jesus Christ, driven and never giving up. These are your infinite roles. They're endless. They remain for beyond you, even beyond your grave. Who do you want people to know you as? Who do you tell yourself you are? Because without identity, sometimes it's difficult to understand our purpose. Sometimes we are not driven enough because we are confused by our identity. But when you know and you have a strong sense of your identity, of who you are in your life, nothing is impossible with you. You become a confident person. But when you continuously face crisis about your identity, it's important to find out and figure it out for yourself. As far as my identity is concerned, there are things that I want to be known for in the future. I want to be ever evolving. I want to be a person that continuously change, becoming better, maturing in knowledge, maturing in my identity. I want to be known as someone who is consistent in everything that they do. I want to be known as someone who shows up whenever they are needed and called for. I want to be known as someone who their word is their bond. My yes is yes and my no will be no. Uncompromising. Someone who get things done and someone who's generous. These are the values that I'm thriving for. These are the things that I'm working at as I get older, as I mature. I'm asking myself these questions. But you see, identity is formed from when you are a child. And as you grow older into adolescence, you begin to join groups, you begin to discover who you are. And most times, there's a lot of confusion that goes around with identity. But the more you learn about yourself, the more you experiment with life, you begin to know your identity. Identity is intertwined with purpose. Once you know who you are, I'm not talking about your roles here. Because if I'm known with the infinite values, then if I'm a father, I must show up. If I'm a friend, my word is my bond. Because what we're talking about is what is at the core of me and what drives me every single day. Can it make me a better human being? Or it can make me a bad father? If I'm a father who doesn't show up when I'm supposed to, if I'm a husband who's not loving and caring and who's not speaking the right words, then I'm missing the point. So we need to discover what is at the center of who we are. When we look ourselves in the mirror, what do we see? Who do we thrive to be? I don't think no one wants to be known with bad values. But it takes work and commitment to yourself to have this self-identity. Because when we talk about this identity, you're not talking of an identity that is defined by society. We're not talking of an identity that is defined by location. We are talking about those core values that drive you. No matter what happens in your life, you remain unchanging. You are the same person, whether rich or poor. You behave exactly the same way, consistently, as you continue evolving through life. This is an exciting discovery for me about identity. I was just trying to figure out I think when I was in my teens and I wasn't really focused on discovering my identity. I was allowing society to define me. But what I've learned now as a grown up is I must define where I want to be, what I want to accomplish, what I want to be known for. Imagine what I know now if I've known in my 20s, the lifestyle I would have lived, the accomplishments I would have made. I have missed those accomplishments because I did not understand my identity. I did not appreciate where I was in life. Do you know, because of social media, because of how the world is moving so fast, most times we are trying to identify with celebrities. We want to identify with soccer stars without asking ourselves, what drives me? Because for that person to achieve what they've achieved and you adore them, they're to define their identity. They're to define their philosophy about life. And they did so at a young age. So now they've become idols. They've become these icons that we see and adore. It took hard for someone to achieve that space. So it's time for you to search inside and discover, who am I? Really? What makes me me? And when you see these values that you know you must abide to. Ask yourself, am I living according to those values, according to those beliefs, according to the things that interest me? Or I'm living an opposite life? What will it take me to become that person who is known for a certain status? And begin to work towards that, to become that person. Because your identity is as important as your purpose. But the only way to discover your purpose is to understand your identity, is to understand your philosophy, to understand what drives you. The beauty of making these discoveries when you are young, you have the opportunity to make mistakes. You have the opportunity to experiment. By the time you get into your 20s, you know exactly where you want to be, who you want to become. By the time you hit your 30s, you are already on your way to become that person. But when you miss the opportunity to learn these things at a very young age, you miss the opportunity of becoming a better version of you. So I want to share the definition of identity. Identity is a set of qualities, beliefs, personality traits, appearance, and or expressions that characterize you. So that's your identity. Do you know, in life there are things that are simple yet profound, but we don't get to ask the right questions. I saw a short video where Elon Musk was sharing about him as a teen, trying to figure out who he was. And he was saying, I read all the spiritual text and I did not really feel connected. I expanded into philosophies of Greek philosophies and different things. And then he further highlighted that he then discovered that you have to ask the questions to the universe to find the answers that you're looking for. So everything is intertwined by asking questions. When we allow society to define us, when you allow that location, yes, it may define you that you're a Zimbabwean, but you can always relocate and get citizenship for another country. So it's not a fixed abode, but at the core, wherever you're going to go, be it in Zimbabwe, be it in South Africa, who are you going to be known for? Those values that drives you. How is it formed? How is identity formed? If you are in an identity crisis, if you are confused, I remember there was a time in my journey through life where you just get so emotional. You just look at yourself and you feel I don't have purpose. You question yourself, am I doing exactly what I'm supposed to do? Am I living life the way I'm supposed to live it? I remember at one point I'm thinking, why was I born in Africa, in Zimbabwe? I like movies a lot. So I'm thinking, okay, why wasn't I born in America? Why is my identity African? But everything boils down to your purpose and where you're supposed to end up. But so that self-discovery, that process of understanding who you are, and when you know that person, you never envy wanting to be someone else. You never envy wanting to have been born in a different realm altogether. Because where you are is where God placed you. Is where you're supposed to make a difference. And the only way to make that difference is to understand identity. Is to ask the question, who am I? Don't be afraid to ask the questions. Because the only way we can figure out life is by asking questions. If we don't ask questions, life seems so small. Yet there's a lot to discover. There's a lot to fathom. There's a lot to understand, especially when you begin to ask the right questions. Identity development is a lifelong process. As I've highlighted, a child, as they grow, their experience, their beliefs, their family, their support structure, as they grow into adulthood, will define their identity. Sometimes you realize, because of the foundations that shaped you, you can pick an identity that is not yours. Imagine growing up in a poor environment and gangster environment, and all you know is gangs, and you grow up with a certain hate, ruthlessness, because that becomes your identity because of those foundation that has shaped you. But the journey of life and evolving and learning with new knowledge, you can change the identity that you don't want to relate to you. We can talk of Malcolm X. In his as a young man, he belonged to gangs. He lived life on the opposite side. Went into jail, came out a new man because of knowledge. He had a new identity. His life was about impacting people. So sometimes who you started off as, who you are known as, years later your life will be totally changed, that you become someone else. When you discover your identity, when you discover the purpose that you have, it's important that to walk the journey of discovery. Your values and your belief shapes you. Experiences and social groups will help shape your identity. Family and friends will shape your identity. I remember growing up in I don't know whether it's a black culture or it just happened that way. My father worked from almost every single day. The only day that he would rest is a Sunday. Half the time we went to church in the morning, we never get a chance to see him. Monday to Friday, that was his life. It was all about money making sure we go to school. Whoever wanted to go to boarding school, was afforded the opportunity to do that. My mom, on the other hand, was a stay-at-home mom. She would end up playing the role of mother and father because we never got a chance to spend time with our parents. That alone can shape me to behave exactly the same way. But with learning, with knowledge, you begin to understand the system can change. Now that my father is older and not working, that's the time that we are now spending talking and sharing about life and now connecting. But back then, we never used to see him. He comes from work, he goes for some beers, refresh with some friends, comes home, sleep, wake up in the morning, goes to work. The process starts over. So all these things can shape our identity. Location and opportunities. Where you grow up. You can be in Zimbabwe, high density, low density. All these things can shape your identity. Because where you are sometimes can force you to work so hard to want to improve your life and make your future better. Someone who already has and living a better life and living, everything is supplied for, they become more relaxed about life. So whatever situation, whatever experience that we go through in our lives, will shape us. Our interests and desires, what are they? They help form your identity. I think as parents, we have to help our kids, or give our kids the freedom to explore life. I'm not talking in a bad way. I'm talking we have to be available for them and give them the right support structure that will allow them to shape their identity. We have a crisis of identity, for the young generation, because kids don't have the mentorship from the home front. They begin to get experience somewhere else. We have a crisis of kids who don't have a vision of where they want to get to, what they want to achieve in life, because we did not give them the right foundation. We did not create the right platform for them to become a better version. So I think parents, teachers play a key role in shaping a child. What that child becomes is determined by what a certain teacher said. Someone is called, "You're a good child, you amount to something." Those words alone will impact that child, that their identity is formed knowing, you know what, I've been told I can do anything. So no matter how many challenges, how much of a challenge they face in their life, they will have this sense of, I can do it, I can overcome it. Another child is told, you amount to nothing. And you see that child struggling in school. You see that child not achieving what they desire, what they are praying for, what they are believing God for. It's because of the seed that was planted in their journey. So we play a key role. Ethnicity, race, and culture, all these things play a key role in forming identity. It's good to sit back and look at your life, where you are and what you want to accomplish. What does it require you to become in order to accomplish those things? The only place where you can start seeing yourself wanting to become a better version of yourself, to become a Superman, is when you have an identity. Bridge the knowledge gap. When you begin to learn knowledge, when you begin to mature in understanding and develop yourself, that will help shape your identity. Identity is a process of lifelong commitment, of discovery, of becoming a better version of who you want to be. This process I've been going through it. I've been thinking about it a lot. Faith for me had a bigger impact on my identity. Growing up in a Christian family, at first, you go to church for your parents. Then at some point in your journey as a teen, I discovered Christ for myself. And I remember just wanting to be like Christ, to develop those characteristics, which are spoken about in Galatians 5, I think verse 22 to 26. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such things there is no law. Those who belong to Christ Jesus have crucified the flesh with its passions and desires. Since we live by the Spirit, let us keep in step with the Spirit. Let us not become conceited, provoking, envying each other. I don't think no one ever wants to be known with bad values. We all want to be known as good people, great people. And for me, my faith has played a key role in setting the foundation about my values, about what I want to be known for. Just like a Muslim child grows up in that religion, understand it, begin to be shaped by it. But the commonality is to love one another. The commonality is to walk in obedience, is to help others. Everything that goes through our lives brings us to a certain place in our identity. Identity is very important, and once you know and have a strong identity, it means you are in a position, you become this person with so much confidence. You know what you want to accomplish. It's easy for you to get those accomplishments very quickly because you're walking a journey of purpose. You're walking a journey, that is balanced, that is grounded. You don't need to lose internal validation. Sometimes we have stopped validating ourselves because we want the world to validate us. But it's the other way around. It starts with you and your values and what you believe in and live from the inside out. But you want the outside to say, hey, you're doing a good job, to give you the validation. It's time to develop that identity that will shape your future and where you're supposed to get to in life. When you have a strong identity, when you know who you are, when you know what shapes you, it creates a sense of self-awareness. You become self-aware about your surroundings. You become conscious and intentional about life. Nothing that happens to you will be a mistake. Will be, I just stumbled upon this. When you have an identity, everything that you do is systematic, is structured. Identity provides direction and motivation. When you have an identity, when you, and when you know that, like me, I believe I want to live life. I want to leave the world a better place. I want to share a word of encouragement to someone and leave them inspired and see them becoming better versions of themselves. I was talking to a friend of mine a few days ago. He had this small business in town, rented a big office. But over time, business has been tough. I told him, I think a couple of months back, look, you need to downsize. You need to look at, if you're not making enough, make certain adjustments somewhere. I met with him a few days ago and he said, look, I took your advice. Shut off that office, which was taking in a lot of money. I'm paying $100. That space is big enough for me, for where I am and the changes that I need to make. Everything comes down to direction and motivation. Identifying who you are and what you're supposed to become enables healthy relationships. When you have the right identity, it's easy to know and meet the right people and connect with the right people. But when your identity is confused, It means today you are in good character, tomorrow you are a different person. Relationship becomes mediocre. Identity keeps you grounded. It improves decision making. It fosters community participation. Identity is often shaped by culture, social, political, spiritual, historical contexts. So you want to belong. You join a church. You join a group that interests you because of identity. Promote self-confidence. You becomes a confident person because of identity. Provides the courage to take risk and pursue opportunities outside one's comfort zone. That's what identity does. You become a risk taker because of the identity that you have. You want to accomplish greatness, you have to go for it. Sometimes it's not working in your favor, but you keep pushing through it. Identity encourages creativity. When you know who you are, when you have a sense of where you want to get to or the identity you want to become, creativity flows through you so easily. But when you're in a crisis with identity, you are frustrated, you are depressed, you don't think whatever effort or direction you want to achieve can be accomplished. So during an identity crisis, reflect on your identity. Ask the questions. Spend time with nature. Meditate. Journal. Do the things that will help you to discover who you are supposed to be and the things that you're supposed to accomplish in your life's journey. Because I've made a commitment, to this podcast, to wanting to impact and to share knowledge and my life experience. I push myself to do and record. I've lost momentum. I have not recorded in like 2 weeks. I've been researching, but you just get sidetracked. Not because you don't have the time to do it, but other less value activities take away your time. But then there's always that thing that keeps nagging behind you to just say, you know what? Because you say this is my identity, you have to be consistent in becoming that person. You have to be, even if it's not easy. It's never easy to stay consistent with your identity. Sometimes you struggle to be that person that you are supposed to be. I've struggled to be that person sometimes. I've not done the things that I'm supposed to. Like I said, I want to be known as a consistent person. I can be consistent sometimes, but I want to be known as a consistent person. Just that person who is consistent. That person who say, oh, if you want something done, hey, see this guy. He will get it done no matter what. So acknowledge and accept where you are. Acknowledge that you have a crisis. Crisis may come. Maybe there's a death in the family, or you have evolved from your main roles that you have been operating in. But at the end of the day, what is at the center and the core of your roles is your values, your belief, your visions, your dreams. And those are the things that should drive you, that should keep you moving forward. Self-exploration, those values, constantly check them out. Am I in touch with my identity? Am I in touch with my purpose? Do I know who I am, where I'm supposed to be? as a child of God? Am I consistent with the Christian values? Am I consistent with the truth? Because that is what is going to shape you. That is what is going to move you forward. For today, that's all I wanted to share. You have to discover your identity and your reason for existence. Because when you have those two figured out, you accomplish greatness in your life. You become a better person. Whatever challenges you may face, you will overcome because you know who you are. So let's go out there, let's discover our identity and become better versions of ourselves and accomplish greatness.